Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how you can connect Node.js into MongoDB Atlas database. So let's go started. So first of all, we need to create a MongoDB Atlas account. If you don't have one, just go ahead and create it. It's very easy, and once you come to this screen, we're going to create a new project. So let's click on this button here, click on new project, and we're gonna give it a name for our project. In my case, I'm just gonna use YouTube. And you wanna select the project of your owner if you have several different users. I have only one. Yes. So we have our project. Now we need our database. Let's go and create it. I'm gonna continue with the free option here. Leave these as default. So for security quick start, you can either choose certificate verification or username and password verification. In this example, we're going to use username and password. I'm going to name my user test user, and the password for that user will be test123. I'm going to create the user, and that's it. So the next step is, where do you want to access this database from? In this video, we're going to choose local environment with address and adds it into this database. You should see your IP address here. If you want to add multiple IP addresses, you can also do that by typing IP address here and click on add entry. Let's finish and close. Great, we have our database right now. So let's try to connect to this database. We're gonna go ahead and click on connect. Here it gives you multiple options. In this video, we're gonna use Node.js as the backend server. So I'm gonna click on the first option here. We need to install MongoDB. Here it gives you a URI that will connect you to this database we have just created. So I copied it. I'm coming here. I'm going to create a new file for database connection called db.js. And inside this, I'm going to paste the URI we just got. Another thing, guys, we need to install a package called Mongoose. Mongoose is a very useful framework that connects your Node.js into MongoDB. So making connections and database commands becomes so easier with Mongoose. So if you haven't already installed it, you can type this command and it will install the Mongoose. Let's import it. Okay, so now we have I'm gonna write a connection function called connect to DB. Inside this, we're gonna use the command mongoose.connect, and we're gonna give it the URI. And once we are connected, let's console log connected to MongoDB. Let's use a try catch block here. If we receive any errors, we want to console log it, and we want to stop the process. Great. Now we need to import this function and use it in our Express server. Import from db.js file. Okay, I'm gonna call it right after the Express app. Okay, so let's start our server and see if we have a successful connection. Okay, we got an error. Unhandled promise rejection. Authentication failed. Okay, that's weird. Okay guys, the problem is that when we have this URI, we need to change this password field to the password we have created for the user. It was test123 for my case, so this should be fine right now. If you go back, yes, server running, and we have a successful connection. The next thing we should do is that we need to create a schema structure for the data content. So I'm gonna call it, let's say, user model. We wanna save some users in our database, and I'm gonna need Mongoose here. Inside the schema function, we want to give the values that we want to store. For example, I want to store the name of the player. I want to store the last name of the player. I want to store the age and when the user has been created. These are our values, and each of them should have a type. Name will be a string, last name will be a string, age will be a number, and this is going to be a date. And there are several other things that we can specify. For example, I want this name field to be required, so if we don't get any names, we're not gonna save that user. Same with the last name. True. So basically, if we don't get any name or last name property from our client, we're not gonna save it into our database. But it's not the case with the age. And created that, we can give it a default value. Date not now. So if we don't specifically give it a time, it will automatically get the time the user wants to create it. Once we have these, we can import this model. User model. Let's name this user schema. And we're gonna use the model function here. The name field will be the collection of the data. Let's call it players. And the schema is the schema we just created, user schema. We can export it. Okay, we have our structure now. So we can use the structure in a new file called userservice.js. We're gonna receive the values from client and we're gonna put them into this schema. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna name my function insert user. It will take request, return respond. I want to import this user model. And I will receive, let's console log this, request.body. I also need to create a router. If we get a post request into /insert, we want to run this insert user function, and we can import our router. Just like that. Let's go to our express.js file. Here I want to import the router we just created. To use this router, we're going to say app.use/user/ if it's /user, run this router, user router. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and see if it works. I'm gonna open a Postman request here. It will send user to user/insert, and here we have some values. We have a name, last name, age. Let's say Steph Curry. Let's say age 19. If I send this request, what I'm getting, as you can see here, we are console logging the values we get from our client. So that's working. The next step is just to put these into our schema and save them. Let's say we need to create an object of this schema, const new user equals new user model, and it will take our request body, and if we say .save, it will save these into MongoDB. Then return the newly created user. We can console log this user and also return it to our client. User created successfully, and return user. In case of an error, again console log it and return it. Let's try to send a request again. As you can see, we have created the user here. It says staff carry, age 19, and the date we have created it. If we go to our database now and click on browse collections, and yes, it's successful. Now we have uploaded a new player into our database. MongoDB created a new database called test automatically because we did not specify a database here. But if we want to store our data in a specific database, let's say, we can specify it here. So we're gonna use mongoose.connection.useDB, and the name of our database, let's say users, equals to IDB. So use users database and put data into players collection. Let's try to send another request. James Bond, let's say age 25. Let's send it again, and we should see it created a new database right now. Yes, it's called users and the collection is players. We have our James Bond here. That was it, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope that was a useful video for you, and I see you on the next one.